Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're able to catch this snippet into the world of A&A Psychological Accreditation. My name's Dave Sleet. I'm co-founder of APA, and I am joined by Siobhan Crosby, our CEO, otherwise known affectionately in the office as Vonnie. Vonnie, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's a scorching hot day out there. So actually being inside is really nice and cool before my next appointment. So
I am so glad that we've been able to squeeze this snippet into your day. It's not often that we're able to get this kind of time together, because I know your diary is absolutely hectic. But we just wanted to give a bit of an introduction into B.I.T.I.M.O, the Transition Live package. Why don't you give a little bit of background to this first off?
Okay, so firstly, everything about APA is based on something to do with our personal experience. And B.I.T.I.M.O is a program that was developed by Dave Sleet, and my psychology has woven into that program, but it actually comes from me being what they affectionately call an army brat. My father was in the army for 22 years, Royal Artillery, 2nd Regiment. You never ever forget things like that. I travelled all over the place and wasn't born in England, wasn't born in Ireland, where my heritage was actually born in Germany, because that's where my father and mother were based at the time. So understanding army background and military, it's in my DNA. I am very proud of having a father, Irish father, who served in the British Army at a time when realistically, I think he was incredibly brave to do that, bearing in mind the time and age it actually was, especially between the dynamics of Ireland and England at the time. But bless him, he gave what he believed was the best financial support to his own family that he could possibly give, and that was from a family background of my grandmother, his mother, dying at 26, his father abandoning all the children, and I did say she died at 26, so she had her children, and that was that. So an incredibly young age to die, and he was put in a children's home. Now the army is very much, and certainly was back then, it was an army that was family. And unconsciously, although I never got the chance to talk this through with my father because he died quite young, unconsciously, I believe that he joined the army and found a family that he never truly had, as in the parents. Siblings, yes, but they were broken up and split up. So actually, understanding these kind of dynamics is ridiculously important to the way B.I.T.I.M.O shows the transition that somebody goes into the army with, but actually coming out of the army and coming into what is known as civvy streets, that's the language, the army military language that we use, then the dynamics are huge. That person goes from having a family that is permanently around them to back into their personal family. Now, often they've left that, and I'm going to refer to my mother here, they've left that female in charge of the family home for 22 years, raising the kids, dealing with all the finances, because ultimately the soldier is off on exercise. That's what they call the excursions, to go away and do things in the army. It's going away on exercise, going away on different objectives within the military and coming back. Now that could be 2 weeks, that could be 4 weeks, that could be 6 months. It could be long periods of time where that female, my mum, was left in charge of everything. The transition of the male coming out of the army and back into that family as head of the family, when actually my mother had been the head for a long time, can cause real dynamics. Now, I will always be open about this. Whatever dynamics my parents had in that transition, they hid from us. But I know they happened, but they hid them.
Yeah.
Now, and there's a lot of other people that may not be able to hide the impact. We also have the impact of post-traumatic stress. When anybody goes through repeated trauma, especially in military environments, it impacts. It cannot not impact. It has to. There's a normal reaction to trauma within the body. And all of these different areas of military life and transitioning from one place to another, the dynamics are huge, and I could be here for hours talking about where it can lead people to be, and I'm not going to go there now.
Yeah.
But what I will say is this program B.I.T.I.M.O is one of the best ways to help people work at being self-aware as quickly as possible and manage the impacts of transition in a way that's never been done ever. And I'm sure if my father had this and my mother had had this, it probably would have helped them in ways that I can't even begin to explain.
Yeah.
David, this is your program. I know I have woven my magic throughout this program, but ultimately the framework of it you created. So please share why you did it and what it means to you.
Okay, so B.I.T.I.M.O stands for bag it, tag it, move on. Now, that doesn't mean we don't resolve some of those things that we've put in the bag and we've put a tag on. What it means is we prepare ourselves to deal with what is in that bag when we're ready to deal with it. And we make sure that we're equipped in order to do that. But as Vonnie just mentioned, if her father had had this and her mother, now that's important to remember, because B.I.T.I.M.O is the only program, and I am conscious now that by saying it's the only program is often misconstrued. But this is the only program where the ex-service personnel and their person of significance can be in the same learning arena and the same support arena at the same time. And that's crucial. And B.I.T.I.M.O for me was designed because I wanted to give something back to the military that was missing to support those people that were going through absolute hell in transition. And when we look at the statistics around the outcomes for transition, there are some myths that need to be broken. Only 2% of those that exit military service are experiencing difficulty due to military service at the point of exit. Just 2%. Now, the charities and the media would never allow you to have that knowledge. And the reason for that is because it doesn't support the agenda of showing the veteran, the ex-service personnel, as a broken individual. But the vast majority are not broken. What tends to happen is because of the global perception of that broken individual, they find it difficult to find work because employers are conscious of not having a broken employee. They're working from a myth. Once that individual finds it difficult to get work, then you start to have the downward spiral that we see. The vast majority of incarcerated professionals by job spec pre-incarceration is ex-military. The largest portion of under 25s that are homeless by job spec is the ex-military. These are statistics that are frightening when only 2% of those that exit military service are at risk of those at the point of exit. So B.I.T.I.M.O supporting that transition and making sure that employers understand that they are not employing broken individuals is a major step forward in the way that ex-military are supported. But it's not just the ex-military that get this program, is it, Von?
No, who is it, David?
I knew you were going to throw it back to me. We're talking about blue light professionals as well. Blue light professionals will experience trauma at a percentage rate of their day-to-day life at a rate far higher than anyone else in the UK. You think about a paramedic, think about a police officer, a firefighter. These are people that are dealing with some of the worst situations in humanity on a day-to-day basis, whether it's a road traffic accident, whether it's a homicide, whether it's an overdose. Those traumas build up. But when we talk about the world of therapy supporting post-trauma, we're still driven by the media and by charities to understanding that that is driven towards the military service experience. APA doesn't do that. B.I.T.I.M.O will never do that. We will support the family of those that have served this country in uniform, whether it is green, whether it is Royal Navy, whether it is the blue, whether it is the beige of the fire service, whichever service is experiencing that trauma, this transition program is for them and for their families. And that is why this is so vital and why APA is championing B.I.T.I.M.O as that transition support.
And I think it's important to recognise, because anybody that is in that field will recognise the coping mechanisms that get created. So humour is a major coping mechanism within these environments. Now that's fantastic, only it's short term. Because everything our body absorbs, everything our body feels. So we can cope with it, and every one of those professionals cope with it. But if you're coping, sooner or later, you might not cope at all.
Yeah.
The important thing is to recognise they are coping mechanisms. I hear it all the time. You go in the NHS and you hear them crack a joke about the worst thing that they've just seen or losing somebody. They're not finding the situation funny. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah. And it's also understanding that those coping mechanisms work in those environments, only now they're transitioning into different environments. And those coping strategies are not going to have the same acceptance and the same impact on the world around them in that new, as you say, on Civvy Street. And B.I.T.I.M.O, by putting the forensic psychological resilience in place, allows for that support system to carry on in a way that allows that transition to be as smooth as possible. And it is something that, as much as APA has been able to do, will always stay free for those families to access by using sponsorship from organizations and donations from individuals. That means there is a connection between those employers that want to support that community and that community that want to get into those employers. And that is a relationship that will keep the connection between both parties solid for a very, very long time.
Self-awareness is absolutely everything that anybody ever needs to work through how they think, how they feel, how they react, and change the reaction to a response. One of the most important parts of self-awareness is understanding our unconscious. And when we can understand that in a way that works for us, the people around us, our family dynamics, including employment, the impact is just unbelievable. It's profound.
This is the one program out of the 14 programs that APA runs that I think stands out head and shoulders over the rest as what can make the biggest impact of raising that psychological awareness.
Yes, so if businesses want to get involved with supporting this, they can contact APA at info@aynaY.co.uk. So that's info@ana.co.uk. They can also telephone on 0208 556 4984. We are happy to talk you through the process of sponsorship, how it will work, but ultimately this is about helping people. So we ask all of you to give some real consideration to the impact of what it might feel for you to be able to help those people that ultimately, back in the generations gone by, have given us the freedom to speak today. And for me, that is so profound. They have provided veterans the freedom of what we speak of right here, right now, today. So please recognize what they've done for us and work at channeling something back for them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that sponsorship option is open to individuals, to small businesses, to large businesses. It's completely open, because unlike the vast majority of these kinds of designed packages, multiple businesses can get involved, multiple individuals can get involved, because each sponsorship is based on a per seat basis. So you are sponsoring a seat. You do not have to, unless you choose to, sponsor a whole event. You can just sponsor a seat at the next available event that is arranged. And businesses will be recognized and given benefit of recognition in those events. It's a phenomenal way of bringing the communities that want to recruit and want to support that ex-military and blue light professional arena, but it also allows that community to know that the world of Civvy Street is still supporting them, just because they are not in the same uniform that they were a year, 2 years, 5 years. We've even done this with veterans from the Falklands, and it has benefited them. We know this package works because psychology doesn't have a best before date, does it, Ron?
No, there are no borders. We all have minds. They're all impacted by trauma. It's a natural response, but let's work to help those people process that trauma, because actually they helped give us our freedom. And I do think that that's important.
It is.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. We will see you again in another snippet very soon. Check out all of the snippets on the YouTube playlist within the APA channel, and we will see you again very, very soon. Bye for now.
Take care.